been trying to get her here for 2 years, so be
You
nice.
said you were going to back off.
Well, I guess you could say my career started practically when I was born. My dad was a doctor. His dad was a doctor. My mother's dad was a pharmacist, and Daddy's brother was a doctor. So I'm well acquainted with the medical field. My business in pharmacy started when I was in the 2nd grade. My granddad had me go to work in the drugstore, and I have been working in one ever since. I graduated from OU Pharmacy School and then worked for 2 years at Graves Drug and for 6 years at Northcutt Drug, and decided I wanted to buy a store that I thought I could run it and manage it. And a store came available, and Daddy and I went down to look at it and the figures and all that. Being Ponca City what it is, I called my banker at 9 o'clock at night to see if he would loan me money. Made the deal the next day, and here we are, 40-some odd years later. It's been quite a ride. At first, we started out with just a typewriter, if you can imagine that. Of course, that was 40 years ago. We didn't have computers back then. So we went through the era of getting a computer. 20 years ago, I bought the building next door to me and punched 2 holes through and enlarged the store, practically doubled the volume of the store. And that's an experience if you have never lived through construction while you're working. We did most of it during the day, but some of it had to be done at night, so I had to have workers that would agree to work at night. One of them introduced himself to my mother one time and said, I'm the man that's been spending so much time at night with your daughter. But I have pictures of the pharmacy with wires hanging down. We just worked all through that, and it was worth it, but it was an experience. The whole thing has been an experience that I have basically thoroughly enjoyed. I like people. I don't mind working, and that's something you have to tell young people when they're going into work, that you have to work it. It doesn't come automatically. And I mean, this year has been a new experience. Every day is a new experience. People are new experiences when they walk in, when they call. You just never know what's going to happen. So it's never dull. I'm glad I went into pharmacy. I would encourage anybody to. It's a good field. Gosh, I don't know what else to say.
Talking about spreading out to Tonka.
Okay. Through the years, I have bought pharmacy files from drugstores that have closed, and one of the ones was Hutton's in Tonkawa. And it was a good buy. It's taken a little work, but we have somebody that delivers in Tonkawa every day, Monday through Friday. And I hope that the Tonkawa people appreciate it, but we enjoy them since they do not have a drugstore in Tonkawa now. When you buy a pharmacy's files, that's a little bit of work. Working their files into your files, and it is work. Like I say, this whole year has been such a new experience, everything has changed since I started 40 years ago. Advertising. The paper was always the way to go. Well, not many people are reading the paper nowadays. And so you have to adjust. And some of the rules that my granddad had been good up to just a few years ago, and they're not good anymore because pharmacy has changed so much that they want you to come in once a month, which goes against everything I ever believed in. I always thought you were supposed to get them in the store as many times as you could. But now they say just that if you bring them in once a month, that they'll take their medicine better if they just have to come in once. I'm yet to see whether I believe that. I have told them time and time again, the ones that call and want me to join this program and that program, that how can I ask a person to take their medicine when they're making a decision whether to eat their food or take their medicine? I said, our community is in a depressed situation now, and if you all don't believe Ponca City has changed, it has changed. The buying pattern isn't the same. Nothing is the same like it used to be. So you have to adjust with each change. You can't just do the same old thing because it's not going to work. That's one thing I have really learned, that you can't just go with the same. Some of the things I hate to see go by the wayside. I enjoy people coming in. Not necessarily when they're sick, which is when I see them a lot, but you develop a relationship with your customer, and I enjoy that. And it's something if you just, it's one reason I never wanted to go into hospital pharmacy, because I like people. I want to be around people, and a hospital pharmacist isn't around people that much. And one of the hardest things that I've had to do, I think, and probably other people have the same problem, is manage people, your employees. That's hard to do, to get the right personalities to work with the right personalities. And I hadn't realized that so much till I took the leadership class. And we had a program on personalities that blend together and ones that you should never put together. And that's interesting, but sometimes it's hard to do, especially in a place like Ponca City where you don't have that many to choose from, to get the right blend. Most of the time we have the right blend. Every now and then we don't, and it's not fun, but you work through it. And we've come out all right. When I first started, people think they're just going to be rich because they own their business. It doesn't work that way. First few years, I had nothing. And if you think my dad helped, no. There were a couple of years I drove the delivery car for my vehicle. My dad was a firm believer that you worked for what you got. He knew I could do it. I mean, he was there. He would have picked me up if I fell. But he taught me how to work. And you just do. You can't sit back. You can't take Saturdays off. You can't leave at 5 o'clock. You have to put in the extra hours to make a business go. The drugstore business is tough. Not only do we have the chains, we have our government working against us. Right now, You all have insurance. You think we're getting rich off of it. The government takes so much out of what you pay in that we hardly get anything. And most independent drugstores are really, really struggling. I don't know how a business would start out today. My CPA says he doesn't see how one starting out could make it because they take so many fees out for lobbyists and we get very, very little. Some prescriptions we get minus, and you just have to hope that the ones that you make a profit on is enough to carry you through the ones that they take away and you don't make anything on. I would like to think our government would change some of this. They go more for the big business, but yet it's the mom and pop stores that have kept the country going. So, you all have any questions? Yes, Rich.
I have a question. Well, I actually have a comment. When you bought the Hutton Files in Tonkawa, I thought that was great, but what you did by offering delivery service was even better. Because you have a lot of elderly people and it's been a burden for them to drive to Punk City to get their prescriptions. And I've always been so impressed with you offering that service.
Thank you. I've often said that with some of our customers, we're their only touch with the outside world. We have had delivery people that have come back and said, well, I lit Mrs. Smith's pilot light today. Another one says, I changed Mrs. Brown's light bulbs for her. And we do things like that for the people. And most of my delivery people have been pretty nice. They enjoy. Yes?
When you, did you make the decision to bring the retail part of your store, the gift items, the candy, the cards, did you make that decision when you first opened? Or did you open as a pharmacy only and then add that?
No, when I bought the drugstore, it was a full-line store. And I enlarged it when I enlarged the store. Pharmacy is still at least 80 to 85, even 90% of the business. But if they do have to wait on us to fill their prescription, they can look around, and most people find something. They enjoy shopping, getting cards.
Make sure you don't take away the candy.
Yeah, I know. You know, I love Russell Stover's candy, but they have Russell Stover's everywhere now. And that's another thing that has gone down because Walmart has it. Everywhere you go has Russell Stover's. So it's not the exclusive item it used to be, but it's still good. Yes, ma'am.
How do you buy files from a pharmacy?
Well, you're buying a lot of blue sky. It's hard to put a price on them. But you buy their actual physical files, and you have to go and look them up. Now, on Hutton's, he did have a computer, and so we were able to, I had his computer in the store for a while. When people would call in his number, then we would look it up and then change them to our numbers. But you can't really put a price on them. I mean, it's hard to put a price on them because it used to be in the older days, doctors would you'd get a prescription, you could just keep on getting it. Well, doctors aren't that way anymore. They only okay it for 1 or 2 times, sometimes for a year. That's the maximum a prescription can be filled is a year. And then we have to get in touch with the doctor and renew the prescription. Some prescriptions are only good for 6 months, and your hard narcotics, you have a month to get them filled, and then they're no good any longer. We're governed by a lot of rules. I think sometimes those people in Washington don't work. They just sit, and they have no idea what the real people go through. If some of those people had to get out and work and live by the rules they made, if it's one thing that makes me quit, sometimes I think, if they give me one more rule to go by. But you just adjust and go on. Any other questions? Yes.
What kind of advertising do you use?
Well, I'm from the old school, and it's been hard for me to adjust to the internet, but we're gradually doing it. I'm not full-fledged on it yet, I'll have to admit, but I'm getting there. I still do a little bit of paper. I do a lot of radio. I enjoy sponsoring Po High in their endeavors, and of course I sponsor OU. Only time I allow orange in the store is Halloween. Let me see. I think that's all. Your best advertising is your word of mouth, and it also can be your worst advertising. So you have to try to please everybody, and sometimes that's hard. It's really hard. Pardon? Yeah, and the magazine, yes. That has been good. Yes?
Did you ever have a point where you wanted to give up and sell the store? And if so, what made you keep pushing forward?
No, I haven't wanted to sell the store yet. And since I've been in business so long, I bet you I get at least a phone call a week from headhunters, because they must know my age. Well, what are your plans? So we need to start planning for this, they'll say. And right now, I still enjoy working. I'm still physically able. And I just think it's better for a person to work. A lot of people enjoy retirement, but I've worked all my life. I don't know, and I enjoy it. I don't know why you would quit. Now, if it comes to the point that I'm not physically able, yeah, I would consider it then. Probably have to.
So do the big box stores have people trying to buy up the small pharmacies?
Yes, they do. Like I said, at least once a week, and I get letters in the mail. Every now and then I've thought about filling one out and just seeing what they would say, but then I toss it.
And buying the pharmacy is not a guarantee that you're getting them. You just have their files and they can choose to go with you or...
Well, and a big box store would probably go somewhere else, and so it would just be the pharmacy files, not the front end too.
Right.
So I would want, if I sold, I would want to sell to another individual.
But like when you bought Hutton, you weren't guaranteed that they were going to stay with you.
No, and some of them didn't.
And you had to really work it.
Yeah. There have been various times, the stories I could tell. We have a blood pressure machine in the store, and years and years ago, this lady came in and was taking her blood pressure, and she didn't like the reading she was getting. And so she decided she was going to take it on her bare arm, but to get to her bare arm, she took her blouse off. It wasn't a pretty sight, let me tell you. Yes?
One of the things I've really appreciated about you is a couple of times I walked in with a prescription and was waiting to have it filled, and you walked out and said, "You can't take this." That doesn't happen in a big box store. And you kept me from having probably a pretty severe reaction because you've been doing my prescriptions for quite a while and know some of the issues. That's, to me, extremely extremely important in this day of all the rules, all the things that people have to do and go through. And we kind of get pushed through like cattle sometimes, and the doctors sometimes miss those things. And so to have somebody that watches their customers like you do, that to me is very important.
Well, thank you. It's like choosing your doctor. And a young doctor has to start out somewhere, but I think I would rather have a doctor that's been in practice a while. And I just got a certificate that said I'd been a pharmacist for 50 years, and I thought, my gosh, where has the time gone? But I recognize things now that I wouldn't have when I first got out of school. And it's the same way with a doctor. After you've done it for as many years, then you have a feel for it. It's hard to describe. Sometimes just in talking to the person, you can begin to get an idea. My dad used to like to bring the patient into conversation, and he'd find out that they'd been in a field or something, and then, and he'd put things together that would help with a diagnosis, that just by reading a test result isn't always going to get you there. And so sometimes just by talking to a person and listening and knowing, say, the type of home they live in. I don't mean house, but the home life they live in gives you a feel of what they're going through and helps prescribe, tell them what to do. And Ponca City, I hate to say it, but the intellect has gone down. And I tell my employees to, when they're telling a customer something, to tell them in the simplest of terms. Don't get complicated with them. Just tell them as simply as you can tell them. And most of the time, they'll get it. Some customers don't, but most of them will. Yes, Homer?
Have you ever had part-time workers, high school students or something like that, apprentices that has went on and became a pharmacist or something in the medical field?
Yes. And when somebody comes in and says they want to go to pharmacy school, what they really want to get is into the pharmacy. And for their first summer that they work with me, I make them work out front. Because there's no better education than a drugstore education. It's all round. You just touch everything. I had one come in this summer that he wants to go to pharmacy school. And I must say, kids are so different now. When I worked for somebody, I did what they told me to do, learn their ways. They come in now and, well, why don't you do it this way? And occasionally I'll say, okay, we'll try it your way. But if it doesn't work, we're going to go back to my way. And occasionally I've learned new things. I'm not saying I don't. But anyway, this young man I hired this summer, it has been the first young man, and I don't know when, that when I ask him to do something, he does it with a smile and gets it done. And that is so rewarding and so nice when somebody is anxious to do something. Because so many employees aren't. They're there just to get that paycheck. And to see somebody take the extra mile, I'm having to deliver now, and I don't know how many phone calls I've had that said, he is so nice. So, niceness pays. It really does, and some of them don't realize that yet. But yes, I have had some go on to be pharmacists. The first intern I ever hired, I had her delivering her first summer. her first year. And she went to the post office, and we had a mail out that we had to do, and the postman said, that'll be $3.50, and she goes, charge it. She said, well, that's what I said every place else I went. Why shouldn't I say that here? And then they'll come back after they've been in. I have one that went in the Air Force and had her pharmacy career in the Air Force. And it's been fun to watch them. And it's fun to teach them too. There's little techniques here and there that some my granddad taught me, some I learned along the way. I worked in the infirmary at Norman, and that was probably one of the best jobs I ever had, because it was my senior year and everything came together, and I was there to see it on the job. Like I said,
what can our community do to help and support you?
buy from me. I would love it if people didn't mail order. It's amazing the amount of business that Ponca City loses due to mail order. It's horrible. And then one of the things that's been hard for me to take is these insurance plans. You have a customer for years. They get a new insurance plan and it says they have to go to Walmart. Now that's hard to take, and they don't like it, but they can't afford to get one. And I think it's un-American that they are being told where to go, really. But I can't seem to fight that. Lots of times the next year they'll get a different plan and come back. But some of them can't afford to. Some of them barely making it as it is. And they have to get the cheapest plan. And like I said, I don't think it's fair.
Back in the old days, they didn't tell you which doctor you could go to either.
No.
Yeah, it's not right.
No. So, I mean, a lot of it's our government that's made business hard. I've been fortunate. The profits are going down. And people, I hate to say, Homer, but people are leaving Ponca City. I've had lots and lots of customers leave. I mean, you always have the death rate. But I have so many customers going to where their kids are. Then I had one customer a month ago, and he's moving to Stillwater, and I said, John, why are you moving? He said, well, there's more to do there, and my doctors are there. So we've got to help get the medical community here, because that's a lot of the reasons people are leaving is their doctors, which where before we had good doctors here. And I'm not saying we don't have good doctors here now, but we need more and better to help keep people in Ponca City. And I like Ponca City. I mean, I was born and raised here. It just kills me when they tell me that they're leaving. And we're having them leave in hordes, it seems like, which that really affects your business. It used to be the first thing I did each evening was read the obituaries to see if I had any in the obituaries. But anymore, it's the people leaving that are hurting us more than the obituaries. So keep at it, Homer.
We do have some people moving into town, out of state. It works both ways.
But my good customers that take a lot of medicine are leaving. and I am having new customers come in, and you just hope that they'll develop into the good customers that you have leaving. You just have to work at them.
Did that woman get the answer she wanted on your blood machine?
I had a woman pharmacist. Yeah, I had a woman pharmacist that, because I was just I was flabbergasted, and she went out to her and said, "Now, whatever her name was, let's put our blouse back on." and she did. It was, like I said, it wasn't a pretty sight. I had a male pharmacist in there at the time, a young male pharmacist, and he was in the back room cackling. So I was trying to think of some of the other really funny things. We've had people come in with forged prescriptions, and I went to call the police. I went up front to call the police. And I thought, oh my gosh, will they ever get here? And it seemed like it was taking forever. So I walked back up front again, looked out, there was a train across the tracks. Oh boy. We've been broken into a time or two. That's not fun. Robert's been he's been the brunt of some of that. He's gotten a late night call. Help me.
Toni, how many pharmacists are on staff with you?
I have one full-time one besides me, and I have another one that comes one day a week. Then I have a service I call when one of us wants to take a vacation. But he grew up here in Ponca City, lives in Kansas now, but so it's somebody I know, and that's nice when you know him. And he had a drugstore also, so he knows how to take care of people. And one of the relief pharmacists is Rick, that used to work out at the hospital. So we try to keep it local if we can. And people who are familiar with the community. And like I say, pharmacy's been good. I like it. It's just some days it's really a challenge.